Okay, it should be on. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today. I really appreciate your presence and all that we do here. Today, we're going to be talking about access to vaping tools for a parenting webinar. And I am here as a prevention educator. My name is Rita Pino, and I am also here with a prevention specialist / tobacco prevention coordinator, Melissa Arnold, and we're going to introduce ourselves next. So hello, everyone. I think you know me by now, but my name is Rita Pino. I'm a prevention educator. I am the Mercer County coordinator for the Mercer Council on Drug Addiction and Alcoholism. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Global Studies, Political Science, and American Studies. I'm certified in teaching English as a foreign language, life skills training, and leadership. Melissa?
So I'm Melissa Arnold. I am a certified prevention specialist. I have an MPA, Master's of Public Administration, and I have an undergrad degree too. I am the Drug-Free Communities Grant Program Coordinator, which is a federal grant that is granted through the Office of National Drug Control Policy. I am also the leader of the Youth Tobacco Action Group, which is Incorruptable.Us. We have delegates all throughout every single county of New Jersey, and this is under the Tobacco Free for a Healthy New Jersey partnership. I worked after grad school at the Office of National Drug Control Policy, so it is kind of funny to me that that's the program that I deal with now through the Office of National Drug Control Policy. So that was a wonderful opportunity under the transition team of Clinton and Bush.
I think that's awesome. You know, things come full circle sometimes.
Right.
So I always say, and I always preface with why this presentation, this is for concerned parents. This is for people learning who are working with children. And this is not to scare you. This is just to inform you. This is also not a parenting class. You are the best parent for your child. You know them best. You've been with them long enough. You've been with them longer than they've been with themselves. And this is just my perspective. My approach is shaped by my learning experience and who I bring onto my show, which will be Melissa today. And this is evidence informed and some evidence based. So evidence informed meaning that I look up the information, I verify the sources, I look at what is applicable to the presentation and the topics, and then I put it in the slides and PowerPoints and resources so that you all can take a look and implement them into your everyday life. So we're going to be talking about why we are concerned, and I'm going to put this over to you, Melissa, so that we can get the ball rolling.
You bet. So one of the first things we're concerned about, past the point of teenagers and young adults and children even getting these into their hands, and we'll talk about that closer to the end of the slide, is the fact that nicotine is a powerful addictive tool. Powerful, very. It is, they said within 5 cigarettes or 5 packs of cigarettes, you can be addicted for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. This also starts the addiction pathways in the brain. A lot of people don't make those associations. They're like, oh, it's just smoking. Oh, it's just nicotine. And I hear that phrase all the time. But it opens up addiction pathways in your brain that make it so much easier for there to be an addiction later on down the road. And to understand the way that your brain reacts to that addiction, the way your body reacts to an addiction, that need and that overwhelming urge to get the substance. And we see that starting in little things. Notice the quotation marks there, like things that people, oh, it's just nicotine, oh, it's just weed, oh, it's just alcohol. But those things can lead to a lifelong addiction and all of the health problems and social problems and family problems that can come with that at times.
So I just wanted to interject for a second. I actually did a webinar with Amy Argirio. She's the life skills coordinator at the Mercer Council. And we were sort of talking about how people are introduced to how if children are introduced in a casual way to smoking, drugs, and sorts of substance use disorders and how they present themselves, and they are more likely to have a lackadaisical approach on how they approach substance use and substances in general. So would you say that I mean, I know we kind of know the answer, but I sort of want to ask the leading question where would
Yeah.
you say that a lot of the advertising that we see where it's presented as something that's really casual, even if it's meant for adults, it's aimed at children, we kind of know this, does it sort of give them the permission to use something that they normally wouldn't?
Absolutely. I definitely believe that marketing knows what they're doing. There's a whole psychology to it. But one thing that is definitive is that in our surveys that we sometimes do either in our own county or that are done state or countrywide is something called the perception of risk. So that is literally how dangerous a child feels that a substance is to them. And through the years, we have seen the perception of risk of everything go down. So that means they don't think these things are harmful anymore. And a huge factor in that is the way that it's portrayed either in social media or through marketing or through this just general acceptance, within a society, within our communities. So absolutely, I believe that is a big motivator for some of this for these youth. So soaring use of teens. So we're going to see a video in a little bit about kind of the evolution of how e-cigarettes and their counterparts came to be. And when it was first designed, it was designed in mind to be a smoking cessation tool. However, it has never been proven as a smoking cessation tool. And I just want to emphasize that because that is something that is thrown around all the time. It is not. It is not considered a smoking cessation tool, mainly because of the nicotine and because the nicotine gets its hooks into you. And then after a while, you don't care where your nicotine comes from. So people can go back to smoking, and we've seen a percentage of people that have. But I think the big thing, if it really truly was supposed to be a cessation tool and people want to justify it being on the markets by it being a smoking cessation tool, then how do you justify youth and young adults using it who never smoked ever before? And that's why we're concerned, because there was this astronomical, explosion of kids who never smoked before using it. And we're like, okay, so you're advertising against what you are trying to say it is. So they're trying to say it's better than it really is, when really they're just marketing to
So Lisa has a question here, and I think it's a good question. Do you think TV and movies play a role in desensitizing us to addictive items and substances? And
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like the blanket statement is yes,
Yeah.
in general. But I think it's that it's not even that it's sort of when we see something like a college movie and we see that people are overly drinking, that you're usually not going to get to that point, right? So some people do, but binge drinking is actually not very common when it comes to college students, just in the general population. So I think the more sinister parts of it are when you have a movie where people are casually drinking,
Right.
and
When
like it doesn't give the absolutes.
Right. And also when nobody's commenting on it. Like I was watching a show that I loved last night, and they started using hallucinogens, and they made it so not a big deal. Like it was just kind of, it was there. It was like, hey, can I grab a can of soda? Hey, can I have one of these hallucinogens? So just like you said, so making it kind of part of what's accepted, just that, that it's not even worth commenting on anymore. And I definitely think TV and movies have made it so that it is just commonplace. So of course we got to the huge efforts of marketing, targeting to cater to teens. So one thing that we say is the flavors draw them in because they're curious. And as you can see on my slide here, these are actual products. The top ones right there. Lisa, I don't know if you can tell, the one right in the middle, can you tell what that's mimicking?
To me, it's the Swedish fish.
Absolutely. And the one on
And
the
the
end,
one on the end is the Sour Patch Kids. I mean,
absolutely.
it's dead on what it is. It's so
Absolutely.
close.
And it doesn't say that at all on any of these packages. You can tell trolley gummies are the first one. We have strawberry trolleys are the second one. Then watermelon is the one in between the Swedish fish and the Sour Patch Kids. So, I mean, they have made the marketing so perfect, especially with these flavors, and they're cereal, and it's all designed by the cereal box, like with the cereal boxes, so it looks like the cereal. So you have all of these flavors that are so appealing. And then there's this amazing technology that's so small in the palm of your hand. And then you have, and it's really cool because it's all right there. And then you have the concealability. And also with vaping, you don't have that having to leave the building kind of thing where, when you're lighting up a cigarette, you have to go outside, you have to light a match. And if you want to smoke again, then you're not going to put a lit cigarette in your pocket. So the concealability, the ease of use, and then of course, something that we're worried about is the other substances that you can use. So once you get used to using a vape and using a pipe, it's really easy to use other substances.
Yeah,
like
and we're gonna allude to that
very
in the next
potent
couple
stuff.
of slides.
Yep.
Just about we're gonna not show you all of the videos, but there are some hacking videos that a lot of people we're sort of concerned about the access to these YouTube videos that exist online where you can just hack a vaping tool in any capacity and just put whatever you want inside of it. So that's just a little scary in my opinion.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's also I just put it there because I want people to know that like there is definitely stuff going on. It's not as if people aren't evaluating this information. It's not as if that professionals aren't concerned about the capacities of the lackadaisical approaches to these substances. But this is the Stanford did a study on dual marketing, and they basically, it's a long story short, it's like 50 pages long. I have the link there, and I also have it in the resources if anyone wants to reach out to it. They came up to the conclusion that everybody kind of just knew, yes, they were marketing to children. There was no like gray area. It was that like they would have teenagers market their devices. There was no fighting it. It was just very much there.
When the states launched their lawsuits against Juul and other manufacturers, it was found, the state of Massachusetts actually uncovered it, that they actually bought marketing time on Nickelodeon Jr., Nick Jr., and Nickelodeon.com, Disney Channel, as many internet children's-based and young adult-based things that they could get their hands on.
And also teen magazines. That was
Lots of
one.
money. Oh, yeah. Okay. I think we can.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So Stanford has a great toolkit, this tobacco.stanford.edu. I definitely recommend if you want some real legitimate resources to go there.
Very empirical. So it's very much evidence-based.
Right. So yeah, we're worried about this. Pretty much, you don't want to bring things into your lungs that isn't air. And especially we're feeling that a lot right now with COVID and droplets and all kinds of other stuff. Our lungs are made of a series of delicate tissue, and it is the entryway into the body, into the cardiovascular system, as well as the respiratory system. This is not a place that we want to contaminate anything. This is why we have Clean Air Acts. This is why we have environmental protections. This is why we have mufflers on our cars, to try to make sure that the air that we breathe is as healthy as it can be. And so anything that you're putting in your lungs is a threat. And of course, the high potencies of THC, which you have the pictures of right here. I have an example right here too. So the high potencies that we've seen are not your grandma and grandpa's marijuana, a little bit of a joint on the sidewalk. It's some pretty impactful stuff. And this makes it very, very easy and very, very accessible. And then of course, the counterfeit and cheaply made black market components. We saw a big kick in this in 2019. And we're going to be talking about
sorry,
that
Melissa,
in another
quick
series,
question.
right?
Yeah, we will. We're going to be talking about it next week. So I'm really excited about that one, especially. But what I kind of have a question about is, yeah, we're talking about like nicotine and all the liquids and THC and the concentration and stuff, but how much does each like thing have? So if you have a jewel pod or you have a pod that you can fill, how much percentage wise is nicotine and THC?
Okay, well, to first answer your question and to put it into perspective, how much nicotine do cigarettes have? And that is 2.5% nicotine. The most standard of jewel pods has about 5% nicotine. Gotcha. So automatically double. And when she talks about pods, this is what she's talking about here. It's just this little tiny thing. And this little tiny thing is enough, the equivalent of a pack of cigarettes. And the starter pack comes with 5. Remember what I said about 5 packs of cigarettes? Can start a lifelong addiction. I call it the addiction starter pack. But yes, so the nicotine concentration is very, very high. And one thing that we often hear is, well, I only smoke juices that are 0% nicotine. First of all, they are few and far between. And then secondly, since there are so little regulations on all of these products, almost every single one that's been tested, there has been at least trace amounts of nicotine, if not more. And sometimes you have a reputable shop that is really trying to make their own low nicotine or 0 nicotine juices, but we have not seen that as the norm. So just because it says it's nicotine free doesn't mean it's nicotine free.
Well, and I also argue, why would you want to just take in vapors in general? Why just breathe that in general?
Well, it's interesting because there are a line of vapors on essential oils and CBD and
but do you you don't just inhale it? I think there's definitely a difference between having it around.
Well, I think the thing that they forget is that because this needs to go into your body, it needs liquid emulsifiers to get in there, and these have not been cleared to inhale. They've been, a lot of times they'll say, oh, these are food grade, food quality flavors, and that's fine, but when they were graded for food, they were graded to eat or to drink, to go through the digestive system, not through that. So a lot of young adults say that vaping is relaxing to them, that just that repetitive motion, it calms them down. That's also an effect of the nicotine. Why else? It tastes good. It's something to do. It's very habit forming. Just like with smoking, one of the things they say, find something to do with your hands, because you're so used to doing this. That's why people chew gum, because they're used to their mouth being engaged in something. So why would you smoke it without the nicotine? I would say the flavor, I would say habit, I would say maybe social acceptability, something to do with your hands, something, security to calm you down. So speaking of, just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, right. But speaking of social acceptability, we have here that sharing products and exploring those products. Does that mean that you have children that are like, all right, I've had my hit, here's yours? Are they like, what is that? Are we sharing products now? Are we like mouth to mouth? Is that what we're doing?
Absolutely. That is the norm. And it still is. I was shocked too, because I thought COVID would change everything, but it is still happening. And on these products, so the cartridge itself, on the cartridge products, that is the mouthpiece. So technically you could have your own cartridge and just share your unit. But a lot of times that is not happening. And a good deal of that is because of the flavors and because of the convenience. So, here I have peach ice and banana ice. Well, I love peach. I know I love peach, but I want to try your banana. So, here, yeah, let me try your peach. they pass it around. Before COVID hit, we actually had a campaign called "Can Your Blue Cause the Flu?" Because there is a vaping product called a blue, and it was just kind of a play on that. Yeah, because it's still spit being transferred with spit, and they are still sharing products, and they're exploring those flavors, and they want to see how smooth the vape goes in with other products. So that is something that is very, very, very much happening. And you're taking off your mask to vape these things anyway. You take off your mask to smoke. That is one of the most interesting things when you go to an establishment and somebody's got their mask hanging off their ear while they're smoking a cigarette. It just kind of blows my mind. But I'm an asthmatic, so anything to mess up lungs just has always blown my mind. And I don't mean to be judgmental, but it is kind of interesting. You have one thing to protect and one thing that's damaging. And that's what's happening. Kids are taking off their masks to use their vape. So they're sharing product, they're exploring, and they're exposing themselves. Now, I believe you had a really interesting quote on nicotine, on that zero nicotine thing that we were talking about, or the addiction of nicotine.
So I have here, while I was exploring the different sorts of stuff, right? And I actually did this through my niece's Gmail account because she is 10. And I was like, it's a school account. It's something that like is a Gmail associated with a association of a school. So I was like, there's got to be some regulation, like, because you know how they have certain things that if they suspect that you're under 21, like a firewall. The thing was that when I was searching through on her specific account, there was no regulation on what I could click on and what I couldn't. So I essentially found this one particular vaping website, because if you look up vaping, this is the first website that comes up. So I thought it was really interesting because they have quite a few different aspects to this, right? So they have products, here's the nicotine that you can do, here's the THC oil that you could sort of explore, make your own, all that stuff. So they really give you a toolkit for trying to sort of become your own connoisseur of vaping products. And I just find that really interesting. But I ended up clicking on the one because this one popped out to me that said, which nicotine level is the best for you? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe none at all. But that was just, my personal opinion, just based on the facts and empirical evidence that I've been presented with. And they have this
pesticide.
One. Yeah, and it's a pesticide.
And a poison.
Like, maybe. But anyway, so when you click on the website, they don't ask you if you're 21. That's the first thing. And there are several different websites that even when they're talking about in a very scientific way, they always ask if you're 21. So I just was kind of disturbed by that aspect. But also the first sentence right underneath the title, which nicotine level is the best for you, says nicotine is commonly presumed as being an addictive chemical. While it has not been totally proven, people often use the addictive nature of cigarettes to suggest that nicotine is in fact extremely addictive. So
I have big problems with that whole statement. Well, first of all, so this website might not require you to say if you're 21 or not, but even on the other vaping marketing sites where you do have to say it, it's literally a checkbox. Yes or no. What are you gonna say? Heck yeah. So I have had a site where it made me put in my driver's license number. So that was interesting. But that is definitely the exception and not the rule. So the fact that something that says vaping.com would say something this incendiary, I mean, nicotine is a known. We know nicotine. Like, nicotine's been around for centuries at this point, but it has been heavily experimented and researched for at least the last 50 to 60 years. So the fact that they can say, well, it's said to be believed that we know it's addictive. In fact, it is at the addiction level of heroin and cocaine. They have said that an opioid, it is as addictive as an opioid. It is as addictive as cocaine. So yeah, that's a gutsy statement for them to say.
And I was wrong. Like, that's really, you're you're really
Yes.
doing something there. You know,
Cite your sources.
I was
Yeah.
like, what source is this?
Yeah,
But yeah,
right.
that's just me. So you want to introduce this video?
Sure. This is a great video from the University of California, I believe, the David Geffen School of Medicine. And it is a little bit older, but I really like this. I show this to young adults. I show this to kids because it's very easy to digest, but it has some really good facts in it. There are 2 products missing, and I want you to be able to look out for those. So we'll just watch this. It's a brief history.
UCLA, yes.
UCLA, okay.
People have been smoking for at least 7,000 years, but it wasn't until the 1800s that cigarettes became the smoke of choice, after machines were developed to mass produce them. 200 years later, in 2003, the electronic cigarette was invented in China, and since then the use of e-cigarettes, also called vaping, has grown exponentially around the world. E-cigarettes are electronic devices that vaporize a flavored liquid. They all used to look like cigarettes, but now they come in many shapes and sizes. Many look like pens or small boxes called mods. What they all have in common is 1. A power source, usually a lithium battery. 2. An atomizer, which heats the e-liquid. 3. E-liquid or e-juice, which usually contains flavors and nicotine. And 4. A cartridge or tank, which is filled with e-liquid. Heating the e-liquid creates a cloud of vapor that looks like smoke, but without a lot of the lethal components contained in tobacco smoke. Many people assume e-cigarettes are safer than traditional cigarettes because they don't burn anything or create tar in your lungs. But it took almost 7,000 years for humans to realize that tobacco causes lung cancer, throat and mouth cancer, causes heart attacks and strokes, and damages the lungs. E-cigs, meanwhile, have only been around a little over a decade, so there just hasn't been enough time to figure out what effects they'll have on your body. We do know that e-cigarettes deliver nicotine, just like the traditional cigarettes, causing increased heart rate and blood pressure. Nicotine also has powerful effects on the brain. It releases rewarding neurotransmitters in the brain, like dopamine, and changes brain chemistry. It is a stimulant, making people feel more alert, but when it goes away, people crave it even more. It can interfere with the body's own natural ability to make dopamine, and soon the user needs nicotine just to feel normal. The developing brain of teenagers is the most vulnerable to these effects. The powerful addictive nature of nicotine is so high that it's comparable to heroin and cocaine. Besides nicotine, e-cigarettes contain chemical solvents. When heated very high by some of the new e-cigarette devices, these solvents can be transformed into formaldehyde, which is a carcinogen. It causes cancer. These observations are concerning, but we really do not know what the long-term effects from inhaling these chemicals in your lungs will be. E-cigs contain many other chemicals to generate enticing flavors. In fact, there are almost 8,000 different flavors available today, so we don't know very much about many of them. We do know that some of the butter flavorings contain diacetyl, which is famous for causing popcorn lung. Popcorn lung is a disease called bronchiolitis obliterans, which is basically an irreversible scarring and destruction of the delicate lung tissue that can kill you. Strawberry and other healthy-sounding fruit flavors have been found to be cytotoxic and potentially cancer-causing as well. Vaping devices, or specifically the lithium batteries inside them, may explode unpredictably. Although uncommon, this happens frequently enough that e-cigarettes have been banned from luggage on airplanes.
I like to point out that's his
Explosions
back
have occurred
pocket.
in people's faces and mouths and resulted in serious injuries, including blindness. With these potential risks of e-cigarettes, the addictive nicotine, the exploding batteries, the carcinogenic liquids, why would any company want you to use them? Sales of e-cigarettes approach $8 billion per year and are increasing. The truth is, tobacco cigarettes kill about 50% of people who use them. So tobacco companies, known as Big Tobacco, need to keep recruiting young people to become addicted in order to stay in business. Here are some actual documented quotes from tobacco executives. "We don't smoke that shit, we just sell it. We reserve the right to smoke for the young, the poor, and the stupid. The base of our business is the high school student. The fragile self-image of the young person needs all the support it can get. Smoking may appear to enhance that self-image. Studies show that when people start to smoke in their teens, they become addicted and stay smokers as they grow older. Even those who swear they will never become addicted. Many of the same strategies that Big Tobacco used to hook your grandparents into smoking tobacco cigarettes have simply been modified and are being used today with an e-cig in place of a tobacco cig. E-cigarettes come in candy and dessert flavors like Skittles, gummy bears, and vanilla cupcake, directly aimed at teens. Ads always show thin, beautiful people vaping. Even the strategic use of humor is being successfully used to get customers on their side. The bottom line is that we are all faced with important personal choices every day. We don't yet know everything we need to know to make informed decisions about many things. but we can resist being manipulated. Take your time when making your own personal decisions. It can make all the difference.
Such a good video.
I just really like that one because it really sets out a lot of basics. It tells about when it was discovered in 2000, or it was built in 2003. I have a lot more history on that, but it gets boring. And then it kind of shows the evolution. It talks about flavoring. It talks about the health impact, and it talks about how a lot of health decisions start with a choice. Lisa, I'm sorry to pick on you, but you're our student. What was missing from the two products? What two products seemed to be missing? Sorry, I'll give you a hint. This is your hint.
Oh, the pods.
Pod vapes.
Yeah.
And then this one you might not know about. Do you know about these?
Oh yeah.
Mm-mm.
So these are called disposables. And
They have disposables now.
right. So I had a piece of paper. Here we go. Yeah, I have a lovely little display here.
Oh my goodness.
So I put them in rainbow order and then I just messed it up. But yeah, these are called disposables. So they look a lot like the pod vapes, but they are literally what they say. They have a battery. They have the equivalent of a pod, maybe even more, we have found. And then once the battery dies or once you use it, you're not getting any more. You just throw it out. And
So
there's
of course we want more disposable ones because then we can make more money.
right. And
Yeah.
not to mention these things are heavy duty. And
Mm-hmm.
As somebody who tries to be environmentally conscious, like this is just a bunch of plastic, and
It's not recyclable, is it?
Mm-mm.
no, not at all. In fact, it has an active battery in it, a lithium battery. So it's very,
It's
very
dangerous.
Very
So this
bad
is-
for the soil.
So this is another kind, and not to mention these are heavy.
Mm.
These are really light, but they're pre-filled and they come in every flavor under the rainbow. In fact, just the ones I have in front of me, I have peach ice, banana ice, mint, frozen mint, strawberry ice, blue raspberry, mango, lychee. And just really quickly, a note on the ice flavors. They're also menthol cigarettes that uses the ice technology. And the best way I have to describe it is think of like just regular peppermint gum. It's spicy-ish, like it helps clean your breath. But if you were to use like a winter fresh or a frost ice or whatever gum, how it really burns your mouth and kind of numbs it. It's the same thing with these smoking and vaping products. It soothes and it numbs your system so you don't even feel it anymore. So you can smoke as hard as you want and it won't have that harsh thing. And we talked a little bit about nicotine. One of the things that Juul perfected, and again, air quotes, I guess that's my generation. The nicotine salts actually make the nicotine less basic and bring it more to neutral from acidic, so that it actually doesn't hit your throat and make you cough as much as a regular cigarette would. So they have the high nicotine, they have the flavors, but then they also make it easier on your throat and your windpipe when you're breathing these things in. So not only do they have that soothing effect of the nicotine salts, but then when you add a frost or an ice or a winter fresh or any of those kind of tingly, numbing sounding kind of flavors, that's exactly what it's doing. It's making a pathway for it to be more numb and easier to take in.
So I also sort of associate menthol with like things that are healthy or good for me, because I love, like brushing my teeth in the morning. I feel so fresh. I feel like I've,
Right.
like I'm ready to start the day. So
Mhm.
when you sort of have those implications and that feeling that replicates that,
Mhm.
it's that kind of concerning how people can be like, all right, I have a mint, or a menthol thing. Let me start my day. And it just sort of gives them the same sort of mindset.
Yeah, freshness of breath, freshness of mind, freshness of body, when really it's literally numbing you so that you can take more. And there have been documented studies that this is one of the ways that they really addicted communities of color and lower income. They sold menthol almost exclusively in the 70s and 80s to these communities, because since it would numb their throats, they wouldn't think anything of smoking one after the other, after the other, after the other, because they were so numb. And like you said, it made them feel a little bit fresher, or maybe a little bit cleaner. And the addiction was still the same.
And I also think that, especially people that are budgeting, I know I've been a college student, where you sort of want to get the biggest bang for your buck.
Exactly.
You know, that's sort of the impression that I get from that.
In fact, on social media, this banana ice, this is like the joke that this is what all the private school girls smoke, is the banana ice.
Okay.
You know, I know, but it's just like, you know, the most bang for your buck, and it tastes good, and it's chilly, and you know, it's like candy. All right,
Well,
what's
it
our
is
next?
like candy.
Exactly.
So we're sort of going to be talking about vaping pens. I know that we touched upon this, but maybe we can get a little bit more specific on the types of things that, you know, we can run into, or that we can look out for our children.
So yeah, so we had the traditional, this is Velcro. I just used this in a display. So these are more of the first gen. So they looked more like cigarettes. This one is just silver, but they had ones that even were white, and instead of a filter, it had like a white, like an orange kind of thing. So it looked, so they put here cigalike. It looked exactly like a cigarette. And then they got more into the developed vape pens. This is more of a modern vape pen, but as you can
Those
see,
used to be a little bit thicker at the bottom.
yeah. So this is a sleeker version of a vape pen, but it still is a vape pen. You know, very very easy to use. And then a mod. I don't have a full mod. I have a cartridge. This is called a Sauron. So it's got a tank instead of like a cartridge, so you actually can put stuff in here. But then it does have like heating elements that can be modified slightly. This is more of a compact system. It's more of a cartridge system than it is a mod, but I don't have one of those. Those things are pretty big. They're pretty hefty. They almost look like a battery pack that you use for your phone. You know, those battery charger things. So it's about, you know, it's about bigger than a deck of cards, I'd say. And it's got a big hefty hold, and then it has the tank and the mouthpiece, just like you see. And then the vape, the pod, the cartridges are what we moved on to. And as I said, cartridges.
Those kind of remind me of flash drives.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what was happening in schools, and that's what happens with parents. They so often don't realize that that they're these products. You know, there's all kinds. Another design. This is Enjoy. One interesting thing about this one and this one here, this is the Fuse, is that they were on sale for 99 cents most of the summer. During the summer, a lot of them go on sale for very, very small amounts. And then, of course, you still have to buy the cartridges or the liquids to go into them. Now, some people say that Juul is dead, and we've heard that from young adults, but they are still making pod knockoffs. And there are tons of flavor bans and everything, but the kids are still getting them. They're still making them. They're not coming from reputable sources all the time, but they are still making them. They're still coming. And then, of course, the evolution from the cartridge, including the oil and the hookah pens, just like I said. So this is a cartridge that you would buy, that you would put in your pen. As you can see, that's kind of sophisticated. It's got a bamboo mouthpiece. Crazy, right? Is the disposables. And I showed you a lot of those. As I said, you know, these are used until they're dead. This is another version. It's a tube system. So yeah, so I see you have some hacks here, and I watched through some of them, and they're terrifying. But one hack I saw is that the young adults actually try to recharge the chargeables so that they can get every drop out. One picture that you have displayed is the vape watch.
This one's kind of cool, actually. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's
really
really
is.
interesting.
It really is. I wear it when I'm teaching parents, and then I say, hey, listen, I have a vape on me right now. Where is it? And the fact that this was so easy and so economical to get. But yes, this is a vape. It's a tank vape. It has it right here.
So did you have to when you bought this, did you have to verify your identification? Was it just, are you 21 and older?
On this side, I did. When I ordered, I had to enter my driver's license number. Sometimes you'll find that. A lot of times you won't. You can on TikTok and Instagram, they have links to these to buy disposables, especially. Super fast, super easy. Now, the thing about these things is they're so concealable. We see this all the time. They're smoking here or vaping, and then they spit it in. Bra straps, socks, belts, pens. I've seen highlighters where they've taken the center out of the highlighter and put it in here. And they make clothes that make it so like drawstrings can have this in the string. And there is a literal industry that is out there making millions, if not billions of dollars, helping your children. And most of the time it's children, let's be completely honest, that are using these products to conceal and hide from their parents. Now, the term vapor, let me just say, we've been talking about vape pens, vaporizers. We've been talking about vaping. That's the name of our whole program here. It's really not vapor. If you think about the scientific definition for vapor, it's water. It's water that has gone into its vaporous state. However, with vape juices and solvents, they have very little water in them, first of all. And secondly, because they're getting heated and because they have so much particulates, you saw some of those in that little film, it is actually an aerosol. And those that were kids in the 80s, not you, Ruth, but Lisa, you feel me, when we would do our big hair with the rave and the hairnet and the Aquanet, what would happen to our sink? After you were done, you would have this lovely sticky residue that would dry to this flaky, nasty residue. And that's exactly what we're seeing with these aerosols.
And if you held a match in front of it, it would be a torch blower.
Oh, yeah.
So concerning.
Let's put this in our lungs.
Yeah, and it was on my lungs and on my hair. You get a match too close to my hair, we were going up. But if you think about the aerosols and the surfaces, that's one thing that we're experiencing with vaping is not as much traditional secondhand smoking, but they call it third-hand smoking, where these aerosols are getting onto surfaces and the people are touching them. They said specifically, think about a toddler or a baby, how they crawl and they touch everything and then everything goes into their mouth. So they're getting some of these particulates and some of these chemicals into their systems third hand by having the aerosol on the surfaces. So some of these hacks,
yeah, I'm gonna click on some of them now.
Yeah, some of them are so silly and creepy.
Vape pen, and today we're going to be going over
this
4
one in
hacks for your
particular,
vaping.
he's just going. My apologies, that's a little loud. But he's just going to be going over some things you can do
you're
with
kind of
your
getting
vape.
dry hits, doesn't
So he
quite
tells
feel
you
like
how
it's
to break it
saturating enough.
apart.
Well, what you could do is just take your coil out and get it alone. So we're going to pop it out of the base here. Now you could use a couple different things. Box cutter, probably primarily you'd want to get like a safety pin. We just have like a little tiny piece of Kanthal here, which would be like vape wire. Very, very small, but it's sharp. And really, essentially, all you're going to want to do is just find your wick hole. There's going to be a little point, and here we got, obviously, this big open area. And you just want to poke a tiny little hole into there. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow juice to flow in there much, much easier. See what we got there?
So he's telling you how to get a better
Now, you don't want to overdo it.
Right.
So don't go crazy.
And that's what, like, I watched this video to its end, and you're literally poking holes into a closed electronic system. Now you saw all those
with a lithium battery.
Right. You saw all those explosions. This is one of the way it happens. It absolutely does. And I didn't read to see if there was a disclaimer, but
there wasn't.
It was mind blowing. And then there was one with the poison fogger. Did you see that one?
Yes, I did.
That one blew my mind.
I don't know if it's this one or not. So there's also this person who
spit back, it's usually due to excess liquid in the coil. Luckily, there's a few ways you can fix that. If you're using a mod or adjustable wattage device, bump up your wattage a little bit. With more power going through your coil, it'll help vaporize the excess liquid. If you're still having issues or using a device that isn't adjustable like a pod system, the flick might be useful. Hold your device firmly and flick it downward. This will force the excess liquid out through your mouthpiece. This can get a little messy, so I recommend going
Excess
outside or
liquid,
doing it over a
meaning your
garbage
extra
can to
spit.
avoid spilling any liquid. Moving on to life hack number 2, fixing dry hits. If you're a chain vapor or take long inhales, you might have experienced a dry hit, which does not taste very good. Continuing to vape on a dry coil will cause it to burn out early, so here's a tip to avoid that. Block off your airflow until it's almost completely closed and inhale without firing. This will create suction and pull juice into the coil. If you're using a device without adjustable airflow, find where the air comes from and use your hand to cover it,
So there's also this
breaking in
one.
your coil properly. When you have a new coil, start low and work your way up. Look at the recommended power settings on your coil and start around the lowest wattage. After a few minutes, bump it up and repeat until you find a wattage you like. Doing it this way will give your coil time to soak completely.
I kind of wanted to show this one. Actually, he's giving like practical advice, but I think that's why I wanted to show it, because it's technically so practical that like it seems very normalized. The delivery is actually like not bad. It's a well edited video. It's not something on someone's that like is in their dark room somewhere sort of breaking apart their vape pens. It's like someone who has a setup, who has a market that they're actually giving information to.
Very professional. Very
It
professional.
normalizes it. It
It very,
normalizes.
very normalized it. And one thing I noticed we didn't put in here were cloud contests. That's a whole different animal. This one
I'm
just
going to be
blew
talking
my
about that
mind.
next week, cloud contests.
Oh yeah. So this one, they literally made a fog machine for bugs, and they put poison in it.
Yeah, you're gonna. This is a hack, but you're just using your vape to create fog for I don't know what. Yeah, so I'm gonna go for it. So that is like bug spray.
Danger, poison. Did I mention
Add
nicotine?
e-liquid.
Did I mention nicotine is also a pesticide? I did mention that, right?
Yeah. Stay safe. So he's teaching you how to fumigate your own house with your own vaping product. So I just figured that was pretty relevant, because people will try to do these things because one, they're bored, but two, they think they're innovators.
When he was playing around with it, he had a mask on himself.
Yeah. He's like, stay safe. And I was like,
Yeah.
yep, that's really staying safe. And what I do want to preface is that this, like, obviously these things are made for adults, right? And that you have these sort of YouTube guidelines that let us know what can be for adults, what can be for children. And personally, on our videos, I always put made for kids. I actually am going to switch quite a few of us over to made for adults, because this is a parenting program. But the things that are made for kids, you put made for kids and the comments are turned off. So the thing is that there's no regulation for children who want to look up this stuff to click on it and not have access to it. I
Not at
found
all.
these YouTube videos through my niece's Gmail account. I was able to get on there, click on these with no problem at all. No firewall, no questions, no concerns. So at the very least, I think that a lot of the companies that are hosting these videos could do a lot better at making sure that kids don't have access to these sorts of life hacks that could technically be very life-threatening.
Exactly.
So yeah, thought that was lovely to share, but also something that like these were easy to find. They were like the
Yeah.
first, like within the first 10 videos I looked at. So it's not as if they're searching for it. It's something that's very easily accessible. I do want to put it here, a parenting video, because this is a parenting webinar, but also I there are just some conversations that could be like said here, and presenting the information in a way that could be understandable to children could be really important for them to know what to do, but also to have a parent or an adult who works with children introduce these things while also making it comfortable. So I thought this sort of game maybe was a good way to do that. but also the information, the resources, and the reactions of the parents could be shown as much more of a model aspect of, not shaming your children for being curious, but also letting them know a lot of facts about it. So here we go. 20. Oh no, it's not letting me, give me a second, sorry. There we go.
Most vape juice on the market contains nicotine, a neurotoxin, which is poison for teens developing brains.
Well, there goes my brain cells.
15 to 17-year-olds are twice as likely to use Juul than older generations.
Stop copying me, Mom.
I didn't copy you.
All
I
right.
just think.
Very confident.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Super confident.
Not that confident. Okay, sorry guys. False.
False.
Recent study found that they are 16 times more likely to use Juul than 25 to 34-year-olds. So not just twice as
Just
likely.
twice as likely. Gotcha.
Trick question.
Trick question.
Between 2017 to 2018, vaping jumped by almost 25% among middle school kids.
I'm gonna say false because it's probably more than 25%.
No. Para mí es como no hay ninguna regla para usar estos maquinitas, por eso es que ahora la juventud la usa más que el cigarro.
Well, Mom is right this time. False. It jumped by almost 50% among middle school kids and by almost 80%
This is in the
among
state
high
of
schoolers.
California,
Wow.
but it still is
In
relevant.
an
to
effort
our
to
stuff.
monitor school vaping, some schools have had to remove doors from bathroom stalls and even close bathrooms entirely.
That's a fact.
Fact.
That's crazy.
50% of high schoolers who vape use flavored products.
I think the percentage is way higher.
False, because it's more.
False. In California, almost 90% of all high school students who vape report using flavors.
So I
think that's 100%, but
yeah, I was gonna say yes too. But I thought, like if you could do this with your children, it could also be good. But it's a video that could be used for education purposes, and it's presented in a way that's it's not intimidating for parents or teachers or children to sort of watch these sorts of things. But the facts in there were kind of crazy that you're like, no, it can't be worse than that, and then it turned out to be worse. So
If you think it's a fact and it's not, then I get to eat you.
I don't think that's
Sorry.
a rule of the game.
I'm still learning. Okay. There we go. Sorry. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the sort of TikTok trends that we have here for vaping. So obviously vaping is meant for adults. That's sort of what they said it was for. But if you click on TikTok and you go to the vaping tag, you can see how many videos this
did it the other day. It was hours.
yes, hours and hours and hours. And it's always people that look younger. It's never older people that are having these sorts of conversations on TikTok of all places. And when I put this link up, it was at 364 million. It jumped up 40 million within the 3 days since I put that link up. So that shows something, right? And then if you look here, then it's just, they also have doctors that are sort of weighing in on this, but then you have people that are just teaching you how to get better at vaping, how to be better at it. And sometimes they're just vaping to music. Sometimes they're vaping and dancing. Sometimes they're talking about, I don't smoke, but I vape kind of thing, how vaping helps me get rid of smoking, all that stuff. So I thought that was really concerning, but also that TikTok definitely has been using vape sellers to market to teens. And I have some videos, some statistics here. If anyone wants to look through this resource, this is also a thing that exists. I thought it was really telling, and it has a bunch of stuff on how to discreetly send packages to underage people. And there's a company that does that, and it's through Puff Universe. So that was also something that I thought was concerning. And on top of that, social media use on teen use of e-cigarettes. It shows that people who are more engaged in social media and sort of look at these tags regularly tend to have a lackadaisical approach to smoking and e-cigarettes and drug use in general. So definitely something to look out for. Also eye-opening, and it sort of says here, how does peer pressure play a role? Social media is peer pressure, just period, point blank. Because no matter what, you are among your peers, you are among their ideals, you are among their their sorts of feelings about what it means to be a teenager these days. So therefore, you're getting ideas constantly about how to be a better teenager, how to do things differently, how to have access to certain parts of the world that you don't normally have parts to. And your friends are also on TikTok. Your free friends that you follow, your influencers are on TikTok, are on these sorts of sites. So it's not as easy as saying, say no to your friends. It's more like saying no to every avenue of socialization that you have. And that in itself is very difficult because you really have to sort of have a really integrated inner wealth to say yes or no to these types of things. So I thought that was really interesting. So this is sort of the last slide that we have here. So we'll be closing up our presentation. But
thanks for being with us.
What can be done? What do we do?
So one thing that throughout the United States, it is 21 to buy tobacco products. That was changed in December of 2017. New Jersey had actually already had that rule in place when it became national. Actually, it became national in 2019. It was New Jersey in 2017. Okay, so a lot of people ask me, well, what is the punishment or what's the law about using under age 21? And they have kind of kept this a gray area, mainly because we don't want someone to get stuck in the system or to get a legal rap when we can still try to restore them. And we're seeing this more and more with different substance use. Instead of sending them into the system, try to get them treatment. And that's absolutely what we're trying to do, especially here in New Jersey. We have a program called Aspire that we release through the schools where you can kind of have this education program and talk about different cessation resources. Just like was mentioned on the true and false video that you showed, schools are using different methods to try to curb this. Very, very strict bathroom rules where you have to sign in and you can only be gone for so long and you have a hall pass and all of those. But I actually work with a school that they actually took the outside door off. So obviously the doors to the stalls are still covered, so the children still have their privacy, but the main doors to the hallway are off, or they're always open, just because they're trying to do this. And there are sensors that you can install that are very sensitive, that can pick up on changes of viscosity in the air, as well as, can smell as much as a computer can smell. But it works through cell phones. It sends alerts to the school administration, but there are lags with that. So the big question I'm asked, well, my kid is already in, he's already addicted, what do I do? There are a lot of cessation areas here in New Jersey. I have cessation slides. I have like 3 slides, from texting programs where you just send a text and say, what do I do? And they send you daily reminders. They give you updates. They give you hints. They give you ways to deal with cravings. But then this is the Mercer County Quit Center. It's run through Robert Wood Johnson, Barnabas Healthcare. It used to be in person. Now it's all telehealth. But that is the phone number that you could call. And that works for all ages. Some of the resources that I gave you below are 18 and up. Some some utilize nicotine replacement therapies. Some just do accountability and group therapies. But the Mercer County Quit Center, we have this. I think the 732 number is Mercer County, Middlesex County, and maybe another one, but they're all over the state. And that number is in the cessation slides as well.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna start to talk about the app specifically that I had come across when I was at a Trenton Municipal Alliance meeting. So this is specifically for Trenton, but we do see trends that in urban areas and communities of color, there just happens to be more of an introduction of drugs and substance use. So if you don't know where to start, this is actually for anyone. I actually use it in general. But you can download What I Need. It's a Trenton app for drug counseling and mental health concerns. Drug use in general, usually comes from a place of wanting to cope with something in your life, wanting to sort of understand the world differently. So this in itself, if you say, it's going to ask you what you need, and it says housing services, mental health concerns, drug counseling, and food services. You click among those, you click on that, and then it connects you to all of the nonprofits and organizations and resources that exist under that mental health, drug counseling concern, or XYZ. So it's WIN, and it is for Trenton specifically, but non-Trenton people can use it. Los Angeles has been implementing this program. New York City has implementing this program. The county is actually looking to see if they can have a county-wide database for this program. It is specifically for Trenton people, but anybody can use these services. Anybody within Mercer County that can sort of see what's going on. You don't have to prove that you're a Trenton resident. It's just offered for people because most of these services happen to be in Trenton. So I think it's a great resource. I think that if you're a high school student and you're sort of scared about introducing these sorts of concerns that you have to any adult in your life, this could be a place to start. It's very user friendly, and it is something that has gotten people resources that they so desperately needed. So that's also another part of that too. Anything else to add? We just have the closing thoughts on everything. I always end my presentation with quotes because I feel like they're the most meaningful, and I feel like that we can sort of have a conversation afterwards if anybody wants to have that conversation once we're done recording. I have quotes here saying, most children are amazing critical thinkers before we silence them. And I think that is so true, that if we give the children information, if we let them talk about their concerns, if we're open and honest with their concerns with them, they are more ready to tell us what they're feeling and less likely to engage in substance use and any other sort of non-healthy habits. I also have another quote that says, children must be taught how to think, not what to think. And I also think that empirical evidence and presenting them with all this information, if they are given all the information and they still decide to do something that's not completely good for them, you did everything you could. And there is always resources out there to help them along the way, given whatever way they want to go. So, Melissa, any closing thoughts?
No, we just put tons of resources at the end of this. We cite our sources, and then here are some of the cessation things I was talking about. We'll also put those in the write-up of the video, right?
Yes,
so
usually in the YouTube description.
Yep, you'll be able to find those. And I guess one of the reasons why we do this is to inform parents so that you can know what we're worried about for the health and safety of your kids, but to also encourage conversations. Like, we're having a great conversation here, but have conversation with your kids. Ask them what they're seeing. Don't you don't have to go in there going, oh, yo, I've got a dank vape, yo, you don't have to try to
speak the language.
All of that. You can just say, hey, so I've heard a lot about vaping. I've heard about disposables. I've heard about cartridge systems. Like, what are you seeing? What flavors are your friends using, or are your friends using, or where are they getting them? You can try to work these in organically and have an honest dialogue with your children and explain why you're concerned and why you are worried about their health. And I think one of the things to remember, especially when talking with your children, is that most of the time those fears and those concerns come from love, because you love your kids and you want them to be healthy and you want them to be happy. And as long as they are assured of that, then sometimes you'll find out a lot of great information.
Mm-hmm. I would just add, it's never too early to start. Obviously start where your kids are, but it's never too early. It's better if we start building those lines of communication at an early age, so that when they are at these tough points in their lives, when they are facing so much peer pressure, we at least already have that dialogue built in, that we can talk to them about the tough subjects.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that point.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate your time. And we'll be back next week with EVALI and peer pressure. So really good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.